A starting quarterback, broken silence, an injured right tackle, and a lot of controversy. Plenty to get into in the locker room. Let's get into it now.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days.
All right, welcome to the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central, Sports Radio 610, and the Odyssey app. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a regular, whatever the hell you want to call it, appreciate all of y'all for coming through. It is time for the locker room. Subscribe, like, right along. Appreciate all you for coming through. We got plenty to get into today. A hell of a lot happened. If you've been here and you've listened to the show or anything, it's very obvious that CJ Stroud was the starting quarterback. We talked about this for a long, long time. CJ Stroud, the quarterback controversy that never was. They stopped even pretending, and they've done that for a while, but they officially made it official today. Now, this is where it gets interesting because there's a controversy among the local media types. Did DeMeco Ryans stiff the media? Did DeMeco Ryans hold out on the media and not announce the starting quarterback and then give it to the local media, give it to the national media types? Or did the local media types even ask the question? I'm starting to think that might be the case. I've gone to the tape. Y'all know I live in the lab. Y'all know I'm very pro local media. Let the local media do their thing. But I don't know if they actually asked the question. Don't know if they actually asked the question. Tom Pelissero, Jane Slater, they asked the question. They got the answer. Local media didn't quite do it. There were people asking questions about special teams. There were people asking questions about Tytus. I don't think they actually asked the question. I'm going to play for you what happened. And this was hilarious to me because we're sitting at the 50 right here. NFL Network's to our left, and then the media tent is in front of us. And as DeMeco Ryans and the three players are in the local media tent, Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, who was in town with Jane Slater, they broke this news. CJ Stroud will start in the Texans preseason opener. Tom Pelissero made it officially official via Twitter. It was clear as day. Here's what it looked like. I'll show it to you right here. This is what the tweet looked like, and this was as the local media was doing whatever the hell they were doing in the tent. You know, those are my guys. You see it right there, Tom Pelissero. DeMeco Ryans told Ed Slater, NFL, and me that number 2 overall pick CJ Stroud will start Thursday's preseason opener against the Patriots. Full interview coming soon on NFL Network. Close quote. So we then had Case Keenum at the podium. Case Keenum concluded his media session. This was like 6 minutes after this news had come down. And I saw my boy DJ Bieneme tweet this out. DeMeco was asked about this at his presser. Not sure why he didn't just say CJ Stroud will start then. But here we are. I thought to myself, you know what? I kind of listened to that whole press conference. I don't know that he actually got asked the question. So I went to the tape. I want you to be the judge. I'm going to bring in Mike Meltzer, my boy Mike Meltzer. I'm going to let him decide. This was D'Amico Ryans on CJ Stroud. Was he or wasn't he asked? That is the question. I know Mike Meltzer lives for crap like this. So this is perfect for him. I can see him smiling already backstage. So this was D'Amico on CJ Stroud. What do you expect from CJ Stroud? Here's what D'Amico said.
Yeah, from CJ in this game, I just want to see a guy come out and command the huddle, command the offense, get us lined up, get everybody on the same page, and just operate efficiently.
Okay. So then he was asked about starters. How do you balance starters? There wasn't the name CJ Stroud mentioned. I want you to listen for this follow-up because this is the closest that he got asked. There was not a direct, is CJ Stroud your starter, which should have been the first question. And you know I'm always going to side with the local media types. But I don't think they actually asked the question. I don't think D'Amico was holding out on you. I don't think he BOB'd you. Here is the actual tape right here. This is Jonathan Alexander with D'Amico. You tell me in the comments. Subscribe, like, right along. When you leave here, be sure to like. You tell me, and I'll bring in Mike Meltzer right after this.
How much do you plan to play the starters in the preseason?
How much do
It'll be dependent upon.
All right, so how much do you plan to play the starters?
On each person. Right now, as I see it, guys going out, hopefully getting a couple series, depending on how it goes.
How about CJ?
Yeah, we'll see. He'll go out there as well. All right, most of our guys will get work.
How much do you plan to play the starters? How about CJ? He said CJ will get some work too. He didn't get asked, will CJ Stroud be a starter? Mike Meltzer, did he or didn't he? I know some local media types were upset by this. Did he or didn't he get asked the question? That is the question. I'm going to start with you.
He was not asked the question.
He wasn't asked the question.
He was not asked the question. This is actually, Landry, pretty applicable to my day job now, right? Like, he was not asked the direct question, is CJ Stroud the starter on Thursday night? Like, they danced around it. They got around it, but they never asked.
CJ? He was not asked the question, and I think he was ready to answer the question. He answered it very easily with Jane Slater and Tom Pelissero, and I know some of the local media types, they felt a little bit stiffed. I got to tell you, there were a lot of questions that were asked. That question was not asked today.
Do you feel like the local media is at times in a tougher spot than the national media, because they're there like every single day?
No doubt.
And they know that like this is going to be a story, and so they're trying to like bide the right time. Whereas the national people fly in and they'll act like your mother asking about a sports team. They'll ask like the most obvious question that everyone wants to know the answer to. Hey, is CJ Stroud the starting quarterback?
Yeah, and I get that. But on the aftermath of him going 3 days in a row with the reps and the scrimmage and an off day and a game week, it's you got to do it there. I mean, this is a game week type of thing, and I'm not criticizing. I mean, I think it was the only question that I gave a rat's ass about. But
I think that the Tytus timetable thing was
stiff. You didn't get stiffed. You didn't ask.
Yeah, did not ask.
You didn't ask, and that pains me to say. It didn't pain me as much as what else went on outside of that tunnel that I observed. That was really hard for me to see.
The thing that you narrated on the air,
bro.
What upset you about that?
It was just hard, man. That was a toughie. So CJ Stroud says this on national TV. Tom Pelissero says it. And then right as this is going on, I'm watching as the local media walks out of the tent. My guy, Aaron Wilson, God bless him, man. God bless him. I did not want this to happen. He walks out. As soon as he walks out of Case Keenum's presser, and you can see him right there on the front left, he's like holding his phone up or asking questions for Case. So it's not even possible that an agent would tell you, because it was on national TV and Pelissero's the only one that said it. I see Aaron walk out. He's looking at his phone, man. And Lopez is like, oh, is he about to? And I'm on the air, and I'm like, nah, he's not going to do that. He's not going to do that.
And at that point, you knew. At that point,
I just knew something was going on. He walks in the tent, sits down. The post was on his site shortly after, and the tweet came down. CJ Stroud will be starting on Sunday. No mention of Pelissaro. Got there, and I was like,
so you saw it in action.
And
wow.
I just said, man, I wish I wouldn't have seen that. I love Aaron. He's a nice guy. That was tough for me to watch. But yeah, they definitely didn't ask it. How you doing, Melty?
I'm doing well. I think I was on vacation last week. I was out of town.
How do you think you're doing well? That's the most Mike Meltzer thing I've ever heard.
I'm doing fairly well so far today. I'm doing well this week. I feel optimistic about the rest of the week. I'm back from vacation. I feel good.
So
we got football on Thursday night. I know, you start watching these preseason games after a quarter, it gets kind of weird, but
yeah,
first time in 7 months or so, and we have a lot of interesting young players to look at.
So how do you feel about this CJ Stroud news? I mean, it was blatantly obvious, but we really don't know how this coaching staff would handle it. It seemed like when Nick Caserio said it was going to be organic, it kind of seems like that's what happened. And like any notion that they were going to play some sort of games or something like that, doesn't seem like they've even tried to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, you've been out there practice, and I have not this year. But I, consume all of it, and it seems like Stroud, especially recently, has just been the flat out better quarterback. I don't know how, with everything going on with the organization the last year, how they could credibly start Davis Mills. I just don't know how. This is why this position is so different than any other position in sports. It's not, this is not one of those like, hey, we have like a number 1 draft pick in basketball, and we nominally start some like forward over him, but the other guy's going to play like 30 minutes. That's not the way this position works. The starting quarterback's going to play the whole game in the regular season, every snap, barring injury or vast underperformance. And with CJ's resume out of college and being the number 2 pick, and Davis Mills being essentially passed over for him because CJ was selected number 2, like I'm always like, not second guessing myself, but I'm always like thinking through possibilities. And I'm wondering, with other guys who I thought should start early, and then sometimes I'll realize, well, maybe that guy should have sat. In this case, it's just hard to really envision that. Like, I know the Tytus Howard injury throws a little wrench into it. But I just think with CJ's strengths, he's a very accurate passer. He's got good size. He started every game at Ohio State the last 2 years. It's hard to really, like, if they're playing games with Davis Mills starting, what is the point of those games? Like, there would be no point to those games.
Well, I mean, if
by choice, I should say, if by choice.
If they thought he was the better guy, then I think maybe that would be it.
But by better, do you really mean that CJ wouldn't have been ready? That they felt that in that hypothetical, would they feel, because better is kind of alarming. The word is better. If they started Davis Mills, would it only be under the hypothetical that, Stroud just has a ways to go with whatever, under center, not looking at, a bunch of billboards and Ryan Day on the sideline, like that sort of stuff. Because otherwise, I just don't know how you could make the case for Davis Mills. I don't know how to do that. Especially when you look at, let's put it this way. Does it seem to you, Landry, like Indianapolis is going to go with Anthony Richardson in week 1? Does it feel that way to you?
I'll
have a follow-up point to this after this question. There's going to be a theme here.
It feels that way. It feels like they're transitioning towards that lately.
Doesn't it? Like, you hear about how many first-team reps Richardson's getting, how good he looks. So Indy's other option is Gardner Minshew, who by all accounts is a, considerably or substantially more accomplished quarterback at this level, I would say, than Davis Mills. Maybe not overly so, but I think he's a more established player. Why would the Texans, like, if Indianapolis is going to start Anthony Richardson over Gardner Minshew, why would the Texans ever start Davis Mills over CJ Stroud? I would frame it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point. I will say the good thing is that Davis Mills has actually looked pretty good this camp.
I saw you mention that. What do you mean? What do you mean by pretty good?
I mean, he's been good. I mean, he's been He's looked like a really good backup. I mean, he's looked like, like Tom Savage quality, like that, like.
But hang on though. But it sounds like when you say he looks good, that feels to me like you're saying he looks better than Tom Savage, because Tom Savage didn't stick around the league as a backup.
What I'm saying is that the reason that I'm saying it, and I've made it clear that I think CJ is going to start. The reason that I say it is because if it was a legit competition, I think Davis Mills put his best foot forward and CJ won it fair and square. I never thought it was a legit competition though, but Davis Mills has looked good.
Okay. So has Davis Mills looked better than he did to you last year at this time?
Yes.
Okay. That's a good sign.
Yeah, undoubtedly, yes. And it does seem like it seems weird that we've almost gotten to the point where this has almost become people not wanting Davis Mills to look good. Like, I get that you probably don't want Davis Mills to be your starting quarterback, but it almost seems like it's gotten to a point where there's such distaste for Mills that even saying that he looks good to some is like looked at as a negative. And I mean, your backup quarterback looking good is a really, really good thing. And I think Davis has looked fine.
I think that's the case, Landry. Anytime the starting quarterback or the presumed starting quarterback is not like some established star, because on any other team, a third-year quarterback looking good and looking better as a viable backup could only be seen as a good thing. But here, it's a little more sensitive than that, because Mills has been the starter much of the last 2 years. They've been a disaster, not really his fault. CJ's the new hope. He was the number 2 overall pick. And so anytime you see tweets or reports about Mills looks good, Mills connects with this guy or that guy for a touchdown, the inevitable thing I see from the fans is like, well, what does that mean about CJ? Well, what does that mean about, it can't just be something that sort of stands on its own.
Yeah. And I do find it pretty interesting. Like, I think it's pretty apparent that the notion that this was a fake competition, I think it's just kind of been proven, because I don't know that there was like any moment where you felt, okay, well, based on what they were doing like the first week or so, okay, well, now you got to give all the reps to CJ, and they did it. So I think CJ was always competing with himself. I think Bobby Slowick, if the people that watch this channel, shout out to all y'all already know what to do. Subscribe, like, right along. I think Bobby Slowick made it pretty clear when he basically said that the heat was an excuse for CJ. And that CJ was good at like learning. And then after that, we saw him get all the reps for the next 3 days. I think they kind of made it really clear what they think of CJ. Now, I don't know how good CJ is going to be in a real game. I will say though, I'm with you in that you can make a case that you're not accomplishing anything with Mills, especially when you have CJ on your bench. Like you can make that case, no doubt. The one thing that he's doing better though, and it's since the break, is he's using his legs. And it's hard to tell, you know how it is at training camp where sometimes you're like, that would be a sack.
Yeah, you don't know what the broken play is really.
But you don't know whether it's going to be a sack or not. Like, and when they step up a little bit, he's being a lot more decisive there. And the one thing that he does already do like significantly better than Deshaun is he sells the fakes.
That was always an odd weakness with Deshaun. Very odd weakness.
It's an odd weakness because it just seems like something that would be easy to do. And I don't, that's easy for me or you to say. Like, you'll never hear me say, well, he should make that throw, or he should be able to run or anything like that. Like, I'm not that type of blowhard. You can call me a blowhard. I'm not that type of blowhard, but it does seem like selling a fake is something that you might be able to kind of figure out, and it just seemed like something that Deshaun never really did.
You can work on that, especially if you're a good athlete like Deshaun is. Who was great at that? Chad Pennington. I mean, he was fantastic with the play action, and he was not by any means a really good athlete. And so that was always an odd one with Deshaun. And in this offense particularly, that should be valuable based on everything they want to do with the run game, the tight ends, all of it. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I am too. That is something that it feels like you can control. Now, the bad news for CJ Stroud and for the Texans is the other piece of breaking news. And Adam Schefter got this. And golly, the national media just came in here and dominated today. And Schefter didn't even get here. Tytus Howard had surgery on his broken hand. He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. Now, this one, the local media types probably have a legit beef. D'Amico Ryans was asked. I think Big Sarge might have asked. And Brooks Cabina asked about Tytus Howard. Now, maybe the agent's the one giving these details, but here was, as we go to the tape, we can agree he was not asked about CJ being the starter. Here is him being asked about Tytus Howard.
Tytus, we're still dealing with that. Probably be out for a while, and we'll readdress that later.
Tytus, what happened?
Like I said, Tytus will be out for a while. We'll readdress that later.
For a while, do you expect that all training camp, preseason?
I'll let you guys know later.
So that was specifically asked, and then Adam Schefter let you know, okay, he had a broken hand, and he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. So I don't know how that one worked, but yeah, that one was specifically asked by Brooks. So that one might be frustrating because
they did a good job there. They asked the right questions.
So Tytus Howard being out, how big of a deal is that going to be? How big of a deal isn't that going to be? Obviously,
it's a big deal.
You want your right tackle because now George Fant, in 2022, it should say, he started 7 games. He allowed 7. He had 7 penalties and 5 sacks allowed. So he would be your starting right tackle right now instead of Tytus Howard.
Started a lot of games for the Jets the last couple of years. I would say he's, a serviceable player. It's more not that you want anybody to get hurt, but whenever something like this happens, I'm always thinking in my mind, Landry, about other alternatives. Like, I would have rather had a defensive player suffer the equivalent kind of injury before the start of the season because of how important it's going to be to get CJ off to a solid start. And a crucial component of that is the offensive line in front of him. And the strength you thought going into the season is your bookend tackles, both of whom signed new deals this offseason. There are some issues on the interior that we will talk about. And heading into week 1 with Tytus Howard now iffy, on the road, Baltimore, couple of young guys, Odawe from Penn State. I'm probably getting his name pronounced wrong. Ajabo in his second year from Michigan, 2 edge guys. You worry about that. I'd rather, like, whatever level you think Tytus Howard is as a player, I would have preferred for a defensive player to suffer the same kind of injury, if that makes sense, for this team. That's what if I could have chosen one or the other, I would have chosen defensive player. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna take if like you're putting the creme de la creme on the side, yeah, I mean, they have a little bit more depth there than they do at right tackle. I mean, you just paid the guy, so you would like to have him out there, but it's easy for me to say. It's just I always look at it as, man, this could have been a lot worse. And
it's not devastating.
Games, and then you figure it out, and you should be able to scheme and figure out how to win games without starting players every once in a while. So we'll see what happens. But Tytus Howard is going to be out. How did you feel about that extension with Tytus Howard? Did you think it was necessary? Did you think they are investing too much in the O-line?
I was fine with it from the standpoint that I think there's more there with Tytus Howard. I think he has more potential. Like, we always talk about extensions, new contracts, and are you paying for what the guy did versus what the guy is going to do? Mm-hmm. And I think Tytus has been a little up and down, but you can see the flashes. I mean, you'll just have these scenarios where when Laramie Tunsil was whatever the hell was going on 2 years ago, he was out. He chose not to play, whatever was going on. And Tytus Howard happened to just be at left tackle, and you'd be watching these games, and the highest compliment I can pay is I didn't really notice Tytus Howard at left tackle, which is exactly what you want. But that's not always consistent. There have been injury issues, and now you add another one to that, and I worry about him being a little injury prone, although, to be fair, again, it's a broken hand. It's kind of random. Anybody can break their hand. I would have done the extension from the standpoint that It's not a lot of years. They have a ton of cap space starting next season. I'm going to bet on a 27-year-old who's a former first-round pick who has played a decent amount for you, and they continue to invest heavily in the offensive line. Philosophically, I was fine with it. I'm not throwing a parade for it, but I was good with the deal, and it seemed in line with market rate. I'm guessing I'm probably a little higher on the deal than you were.
I'm fine with it. I didn't think it was necessary. But I mean that's just kind of me. Like I didn't even think like the Nelson thing was necessary. So
sure.
I mean, I didn't think it was necessary. I get it. Like, you want to get the offensive line ready.
It's one of those.
I look at Jacksonville having to let their starting right tackle go so that you can, and they decided to invest heavily in weapons. I just think there's holes where you're going to have to pay, and that's fine. Maybe I also have a little bit of PTSD where I've seen a lot invested in the offensive line, and I just haven't really seen it pay off.
Yes.
So maybe I have a little bit of PTSD there. B-O-B, Jack, P-O-S, PTSD.
They can get out of this deal in 2025 if things don't work out, and they'll save $10 million, or they'll take, some dead money. I look at this as he comes in at an average of $18.6 million per year, which puts him fourth among right tackles in the NFL. The guys ahead of him are Lane Johnson, Taylor, Ryan Ramczyk. I would look at it this way. The way these things work, Landry, is if Tytus Howard had a legitimately good season this year, and I'm talking like played all 17 games, played at a clearly above average level, then guys like that going into free agency are going to basically say, yeah, I want to be the highest paid player at my position, not like left tackle, but right tackle. And by extending him early, you're kind of saving some money that way if it pans out.
Yeah, and I think that's what they hope. They hope that they're getting it at the right time. My thing with these deals, it's not necessarily like in a perfect world, if Tytus Howard's one of the best right tackles in the game, I get it. But sometimes, like, I always look at these deals, and that's why I'm not a effing general manager. I look at them and I say, okay, how much higher is this going to go up? Like, how much, like, at what level is Tytus Howard going to play at to where you're getting like some sort of bargain? Like, I'm very pro. Like, I'm pro first Whitney Merciless contract. Like, those are the types of deals that when you get deals like that, I think those are what the good organizations do, and what the good organizations, that's where they have the wherewithal and the instincts and the foresight to be able to make such moves. But when I see that, I was just like, okay, well, how much higher is this going to go up? But I'm fine with it. He's just got, they've got to have one of the best tackle duos in the NFL, not one of these like hypothetical, like, oh, people are sleeping on us. It's got to be widely regarded as one of the best tackle duos in the NFL, or else it's not a justified deal. And quite frankly, I don't think they're there yet. I don't think they're far away from being that, but they're not there yet. They got to get there though.
Yes. And there are a lot of other variables that go into how we view that. But at the very minimum, from a pass protection standpoint, when Tytus gets back on the field, he and Laramie better be, to me, one of the best tackle combinations in football at protecting CJ Stroud. The running game can get a little complicated because it depends on, the other, 8-9 guys on the field, and it depends on schemes and all of it. And that can get a little nuanced. But as far as pass protection, like, they need to keep a clean pocket around CJ Stroud. And for Tytus making 18.6 and Laramie Tunsil making $25 million a year, I think that is a very fair standard.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. And unfortunately, you won't have to be too long without Tytus. He'll miss a couple games tops, or he could be ready to go.
I mean, if you're asking me, like, if Tytus Howard plays well, what I view him as, like, his talent, his ability, if he plays well, can he be in the range of the player that he's being paid around? Juwan Taylor, Ryan Ramczyk, Brian O'Neill, McGlinchey? I will say yes. If he reaches what I think his ceiling is, I think he can play like those guys. I do, but he's got to get there.
He's got to get there. Very much got to get there. Steven Nelson, he got a tweaked deal. Now, it wasn't like a hard $2 million raise. It's an opportunity to earn $6.5 million. He also met with the media for the first time. Here's a little snippet of what Steven Nelson had to say post drama and post tweak contract.
Steve, when they addressed your contract, how did that feel for you that they showed you that respect when it ended down?
It felt really good. Made me feel appreciated a little bit. Bring me back in and get me around the guys. So kind of got me motivated.
How do you see yourself being used in this new defensive scheme?
Playing corner.
How did you and Nick Caserio handle the conversation that we started leading to that?
What you mean?
How did y'all approach talking about
the contract? I think he was speaking with my agent on that one.
All right, there you go. So Steven Nelson ready to go. And he's been really good, man. He's been really good in camp. He's come through. He's played well, easily starting. Good for him. And I guess it's good for them. I don't know.
Do we know, Landry? I never usually ask these kind of questions, but I'm just gonna blame it on me being out last week. Do we know what the conditions are for him to get this extra $2 million from 4.5 to 6.5? I haven't seen that reported.
No idea. I don't know like the specifics. I don't know if it's like games played. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, because like the Saquon Barkley thing, like his incentives, it was basically like, hey, we'll cut you a check for $2 million to come, and then basically, if you're great and we make the playoffs, which is kind of out of your control, a bunch of it,
kind of a long shot, given
kind of a long shot too
last year and how the start of their schedule is.
And one other thing with Steven Nelson, I was thinking about is, and I thought Nick Caserio handled it pretty well publicly, like joking around a week or two ago about the vest thing, and then last week when he was talking about how. He kind of blamed, I don't know about blame, but he explained it away as well. Steven Nelson switched agents, that sort of thing. If you're Steven Nelson and you sign with a team like the Texans a year ago, he signed Landry a 2-year deal. I mean, this is the risk that happens when you sign a 2-year deal. You have to know at that stage.
They'll give you a 1 year if you want it. I can promise. Like if you want a 1 year, God, this was the right place to be the last couple of years. That's
exactly. Fair. Yeah, like maybe the terms would have been a little bit different, but they would have given him a 1-year deal, and then you have the upside of cashing in free agency. He's the one who signed the 2-year deal with this kind of football team. He had to know what he was getting into.
And that was what was kind of funny with me, because I don't think that even then, I don't think that if he had signed a 1-year deal, it's going to be much different than it's going to be somewhere in between what it can be this year and what it was before. Like if you look at the contracts that like Shaq Griffin got, and I don't think Shaq's as good as Steven, at least right now in practice, and what Marcus Peters got with the Raiders, like I would say it's fair to say that Steven Nelson is in the market, like at best case scenario in the Marcus Peters range. And I think a lot of people might rather have Marcus Peters, although he's coming off some injuries. Like I don't think he was going to get like a ton more. And the 2-year contract, he signed the 2-year deal. Now, obviously, teams, they sign players to long contracts and they bail early, so I get that. But I didn't think it was like some sort of big travesty that Steven Nelson was going to play for $4.5 million this year. So,
yeah, he's kind of
he's been good. I mean, he's been really good in camp, though.
Yeah, I mean, he played well last year. You mentioned it. I've read it elsewhere that he's had a strong training camp. That's nice to hear. He's in this awkward spot where if you just look at where cornerbacks are paid average per year, like a lot of guys around him are either younger and or on like rookie contracts, like guys who were picked very high in the draft. So his contract isn't really comparable to theirs. And it's like, he's 30 years old. Steven Nelson's a year-to-year player is what he is at this stage. Like he's not a foundational player. He's like
he can, and I don't blame him for looking at that and saying, I want to maximize what I can year to year.
Absolutely.
I like when we say this, it's the team POV and the Steven Nelson POV. Like I don't blame him for thinking that way either.
Yeah, because he needs to maximize, as you mentioned, what he can get, and if he's playing well, he's going to feel that way. But he's kind of like a tertiary, whatever the number for 4 would be, and so it's like a year to year. But he's 30 years old. He's not going to be like a core player of a team. Like even a team like Houston with a lot of cap space upcoming is going to be terrified to give somebody like this a 3-year contract. So you're operating like year to year, maybe 2 years. A couple million here, a couple million there. And that's just the kind of player that he is. And if he plays well this season, then they have recouped a whole lot from these 2 years. I've been very critical of Nick Caserio for some of the veteran signings. This has been a good one so far.
Yeah, it's been a good one. And quite frankly, the job they've done with the secondary as a whole the last couple of years in fixing that, I mean, it's been perhaps the best work that they've done as far as, fixing a position unit up to this point, between the Desmond King signing, Tavier Thomas, the Stingley pick doesn't seem like a bad pick or anything like that, regardless of what you want to do with the Sauce Gardner stuff. And then Petrie and Jimmy Ward and Steven Nelson. Yeah, I mean, I think they've done a really good job with the secondary. Now, hopefully they're that good when it comes to the offensive line, but we'll see.
They've done well with the secondary. If this team has a surprising number of wins this season, I think a main reason is going to be that the secondary is better than a lot of people think nationally.
Yeah, 100%. Receivers have kind of been an interesting thing I kind of want to touch on here, because despite the fact that the Texans, I feel like I know who their 6 wide receivers are going to be that they're going to keep. This wide receiver situation is getting interesting to me for many reasons. Number one, I don't know what they do with Tank Dell. He was the best player on the field on Saturday. They're lining him up outside. They're lining him up inside. He's open all the time. He's going down and making plays. He's making plays on the sidelines. He's making plays across the middle. He's making, he just looks like a total receiver. Like, any notion that he was just like a deep threat and that's it. Nah, he looks like a total receiver. And he's going against a pretty good secondary. This isn't like, some defensive lineman having a really good camp because he's going against a bad lineman. He's going against a good secondary. He's going against a good defense. And he keeps making plays. John Mechie, he lines up in a lot of places. He's making plays. Nico Collins seems like, deep threat every once in a while. He can figure some stuff out. Xavier Hutchinson looks really good. They're lining him up in the slot. They're lining up on the outside. He's making plays. Noah Brown had a good start to camp. Kind of feels like he's disappeared. I think that we know what 6 wide receivers are going to make this squad, but the back end is getting interesting, because I think Jesse Matthews would have made this team the last 2 years. And I think Steven Sims perhaps would have made this team the last 2 years. And you're seeing those guys get first team reps. At the scrimmage, Sims had a catch with the first team. And Jesse Matthews made a couple of plays, most of which were with Davis Mills. And you've heard D'Amico Ryans really praise him. I do wonder if there is going to be some sort of crazy surprising thing. I do wonder if maybe one of these guys sneak their way on. I'm keeping a close eye on it. Would I bet on it? Probably not. But crazy things often happen. I do wonder if one of these guys, if we're talking about long shots, I don't think there's going to be too many shockers. I would watch Shaq Griffin, and I would watch the back end of these wide receivers, Jesse Matthews and Steven Sims. Because the other thing is this: I don't know how you believe in this, Mike, but if Tank Dell is going to be one of your best receivers, do you want him returning punts, or does the fact that Sims can do that, does that kind of add him? You still let him return punts?
I'm a big believer in this philosophy.
So am I, but I don't know that everyone is.
Yeah, people were very critical when I said this about Will Fuller, and it's one of those things that the farther away we get from it,
polarizing because he gets hurt all the time.
Yeah, but that in a weird way, the farther we get, the more convinced I become of my position on that. That if a guy is not, listen, it's not like I'm advocating for Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson to return punts. I understand that would be a dumb idea, but when you take these guys who are valuable as sort of Swiss Army knife with their speed on the field for a team that, let's be honest, if the Texans had a top 10 offense this season, it would be borderline shocking. That's just not going to happen with the rookie quarterback, the receiving core, questions on the interior. If this team's going to win more games than you expect, they're going to win games on the edges, turnovers, special teams, like manufacturing ways to get yards. Tank Dell. This guy's not a first-round pick. He's a third-round draft pick who's like, whatever he was, 5'7", 5'8", whatever the hell he is, right? And so those are the kind of players that I want to use as both a receiver and returning punts. And the other thing I want to mention about returning punts, and I've long held this theory, unlike returning kickoffs, which it's really changed a lot in the NFL recently, but returning punts, I've always believed that you can control returning punts to a much larger degree because it's not as fast of a play as a kickoff where you've got like 10 guys running full speed at you if the ball is kicked in play. You know, punts, you got the gunners, they're running pretty fast, but there's someone blocking them, and you can always fair catch it. Like, you always have that opportunity. It's a slower play. You have the opportunity to kind of control your own destiny in a way. And a guy like Tank Dell, with the attributes that he brings to the table, I would think would be ideal for this football team if he's good at it to be used in that role.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I don't know how they feel about it. I think I think it would be really, really interesting to see how they handled that thing. Jalen Johnson says he heard Jared Wayne is having a nice camp. I don't know who the hell told you that.
Is he not?
I haven't seen him do a shit. Honestly, no offense. I mean, yeah, I don't know who's telling you that. Brown Chubby Bear, Tank Dell needs to return punts. He's going to be elite at returning. He averaged 19 yards per return in college.
Yeah, that's all you need to hear. Yes.
Yeah, he averaged 19 yards. And I mean, I don't know if that was like a main reason why they took him, but it had to have had like some sort of factor into it, especially when you're going third round. You start factoring some other stuff there. Jesse Matthews is interesting, though. I do wonder, I think this guy's going to have a hell of a preseason. I think this is going to be your preseason hero. I'm calling at least 2 touchdowns for Jesse Matthews. From Case Keenum.
What makes you so big on this guy?
He's just D'Amico like singled him out early on in camp.
Yeah.
At the scrimmage, he had the catch of the day. He had another one-handed catch today. He had another catch on the sidelines. I think they already like their 6 receivers, so I think he's going to get a lot of run. I think they're probably going to want to get a look at him. I just don't know. I don't know what how they're going to handle that or what they're going to do with it, but you'll see. I mean, you'll see. I mean, he's going to make plays. He's going to make plays every season. I feel like if there's anything I'm confident in, it's that Jesse Matthews is going to make plays in the preseason.
It's a weird thing with a team that's widely considered to have the weakest receiving core in the NFL, that it almost feels like 6 spots are locked in. But yet when you go to every single guy, it kind of makes sense. Nico Collins, 3rd round pick a couple of years ago. Maybe we'll have a breakout. He could be their top target, etc. Mechie, rookie player who obviously had cancer last year. Robert Woods, their quote-unquote marquee signing. Not going to get rid of him. Tank Dell, 3rd round pick.
Robert Woods Brown, a lot of short catches.
Yeah. Noah Brown, they signed free agency. Veteran guy, knows the system. And then Xavier Hutchinson, one of these guys, draft pick, although 6th round, who immediately, once they picked him, people were like, yeah, this guy could do something. He's in the right situation. So it's weird that a team with a weak receiving core in general, compared to the league, would have, 6, I don't want to say complete locks. I wouldn't go that far, but, 6 guys who seem solidly penciled in, but you go one by one and it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, and I'm actually going to do a video about this. There's actually like, how pissed this used to make me. Versatility is actually a thing with these wide receivers. Like these guys are lining up all over the place to where you can't even keep up with like where they're lining up. So the guys can do a lot of things. They can do it. Like, I don't know that you have like, I can't see a situation where you have like a unquestioned number 1 receiver of these guys. Although I do want to see what Tank looks like. I don't want to like throw it out, but like he looked like Cooper Kupp on Saturday. Like I'm not trying to I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm not saying that means anything, but like the way that he was making plays, the way they were using him, how easy it looked and all that, like, and it's been like for a little bit of practice. I'm not saying he's going to be that. That's like freakish stuff, but that's like the only thing that I could see is like him ended up being like a really, really good slot guy. And you've seen guys who some really, really good slot guys aren't, true number ones. Like even some of like the best slot guys of all time. But he's not just a slot guy. They're moving him around. But I say all that to say that I don't really see them at the end of this year having a guy who you say, okay, you feel good, this is your number one receiver. But I could easily, I'm starting to at least be able to imagine that they at least have their complementary pieces to where these guys like 2 down on the depth chart could be, in a perfect world, they could be okay. Like you could convince me that maybe that would happen, but I still see them probably needing to find that number one guy for CJ Stroud, whether it's drafting someone early like the Bengals did for Burrow with Chase, whether it's overpaying someone like the Jags did with Christian Kirk. I could see these guys being complimentary guys.
I think that makes complete sense. It would be very surprising if any one of these guys ended up being a bona fide number one receiver on an NFL team, especially given where the position is these days, where there are just so many talented guys, and breaking through the top 5 or 10 is really difficult to do. But I'm a little bit more optimistic about the receiving core a few weeks in than I was, let's say, a month or 2 ago.
No, you should be like, and you know how I was about this. Like you definitely should be intrigued by it. And then you got, I
don't hear a lot of negatives was what I like. People like what Woods has brought. Everybody seems to like Mechie a lot. I know Nico looking good is not a surprise. But Tank Dell has a lot of fans with what he's doing. Hutchinson, like that's what I like, that you're hearing compliments about basically every single guy.
And the word compliment, I think, can go multiple ways. I think it can have multiple terms, because you're hearing compliments, which when you use the word, you mean like, good things.
Yes.
I think these guys kind of compliment each other too, because I don't think Nico Collins is a complete receiver. I think he has trouble getting off the line at times. And you've seen him trying to work on that with like Nelson and Stingley after practice. And you've seen Bobby Slowick kind of take him to the side, and he's working his ass off. But I think Nico Collins can be a good deep threat. I think he can be a good red zone threat. And I think all these other guys kind of compliment him in that they're better intermediate receivers. They're guys that you can throw the ball sideways to and run the screen game that this offense seems to like and enjoy to run. And I think they actually like complement each other pretty nicely. And you have Noah Brown, who's willing to do dirty work and all that type of stuff. I do think that these guys complement each other pretty nicely.
I like it.
So
keep getting these Jared Wayne questions.
I don't know.
Love this Jared Wayne.
I don't know what Jared Wayne. No, he's not going to make it. Like it may. He might make the practice squad, and he might have a good preseason. But no, I don't know where I don't know where the Jared Wayne hype has come from. But yeah,
I guess he was good at Pitt last year.
KI is asking which 6'4" wide receiver is good in the screen game. I don't know that I said that Nico Collins would be good in the screen game. I don't think he's a good intermediate receiver. I mean, I don't think he's good at running slants. I don't think he's good at running drags. I don't think he's good at running hitches. I think he's good at running deep, and I think he's good at running deep posts. But obviously these other guys are going to be screened. But yeah, there's a lot of 6'4" receivers that are good intermediately. I don't see Nico as that. I don't see him as being a complete wide receiver. The screens are going to be to all the other guys. They're throwing the sideways pass to Robert Woods. So look out for that. I guess you can call it the Debo thing. Jalen Johnson's asking who the hell is Jesse Matthews? He's number 41. You'll see him on. Yeah, you'll see.
That's
him
not a great number for a receiver.
That's not a bad question at all. I didn't know who the hell he was before this year. And I didn't, we actually were having some fun with it because D'Amico Ryans mentioned him first at minicamp. And then you kind of saw him and you kind of said, okay, I can see why they like him. He's like ended practice on some big play. Like he had a big play to end practice last week. We'll see what happened. But yeah, we'll see the Jared Wayne train. I did not know that was even a thing, but we got the Jared Wayne train. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, you got a nice little thing. The other thing about the offense, 3 down at running back could go a number of ways. Like I don't know where to start there. I could see the third string running back or the rest of the running back room like not even being on a team yet at this point. I guess if you had to say someone, you would say Boone based on performance, but
what's been wrong with these guys? And also how
this wrong? It's just, you know how it is. Like sometimes it seems like they're focused as much on the passing game as they are anything. So it seems like they're kind of a little more pass heavy compared to camps past.
Well, I always wonder, any training camp I've been to, I always struggle to really evaluate the running game because I know there are days that they put the pads on, they'll have different drills and different parts of the field so you can get a better sense of it. But ultimately, I think it's really hard to get a good sense of a running game basically until week 1. Because even the preseason, like, you don't know what guys are out there and how much are they really focused on stopping the run. But so to you, basically, it's Pierce, Singletary, and then who knows past that at this stage?
Yes. Pierce, Singletary, and then what's up?
Yeah. What do you think of Xavier Valladay?
He's all right. I don't like him. It's not.
What does he lack?
I don't know what he lacks. I can't really tell. Like they're not.
Okay. That's a fair answer.
He makes some plays, but it's not anything like there's not any. I can't pretend like there's anything really like going on there. Like it's not bad. There's not like anyone like that's bad. I mean, I do truly believe that preseason is really where you can make a team as a running back. Like I think a lot of these receivers could go out there and like set the world on fire and you're not going to make the squad. But I do think, especially in this situation and often, you can make a team in preseason at running back. So I think we'll get a good glimpse of that. The Dare thing, I don't know. Like people were asking about Dare. I know he plays special teams. I would, in a perfect world, I would love to find someone that can tote the rock better than Dare.
Yeah, that's always been the thing.
I mean, I think that would be ideal, but he's not like sticking out like a sore thumb or anything like that.
The good thing is that slowly but surely, Landry, they have dug us out of this just depths of hell that we were in at running back for a couple of years. Like, I'm not saying it's Auburn with Ronnie Brown and Cadillac and Brandon Jacobs, but finally I feel like we have like viable options here, especially with the first 2 guys.
Yeah, I mean,
we have better problems now.
Yeah, look, I'm talking about 3 down. Like your 1-2 you feel good about. I'm talking about 3 down. From the tight end position, Quintariano still hadn't practiced.
Didn't you report last week?
But yeah,
you were like monitoring Winovich, what he was doing.
No, he is close. Like he is close. Yeah. I just don't know if they're gonna activate him on a game week. But he's moving fine. Christian Kirksey doesn't look like he's close at all. But yeah, Quintariano he performed the physical. It's just I guess I don't know if they just don't want to put him in now. If Quintariano does not practice on. Are they practicing Sunday after the game? If he's not practicing Sunday or Monday, then I think you should be concerned. But I would think
that makes sense.
I would think that would be where Quintariano comes back.
So the way that's going to break down, the way that'll break down is Schultz is by far the number 1 guy. Then Quintariano, who played, I thought showed flashes as a rookie last season, and then it feels kind of like anything goes with the last 6 guys.
Beck.
Okay. Well, I kind of put in a certain like.
But he's easily their second best tight end right now.
Okay. So
Yeah.
does that mean
he's their
that
best
they would
fullback and their second best tight end? Like he was.
Okay.
I was joking with Case Keenum today, and I forgot who said this. Who the hell said this? I don't want to steal their thunder. I think it might have been John Harris. We were joking about, do you call it 12 personnel or 21 personnel when Beck's out there? Is it 2 back, 1 tight, or 1 back, 2 tight?
That's a football guy's joke right there.
Yeah, but Beck looks good, man. I know a lot of people had some fun with me on the Beck thing, but Beck is a good weapon for them. They seem to like him.
Okay, so would you say, Landry, then at the tight end position,
I think they're keeping 3 and they'll count Beck. I think it kind of gives you a little bit of flexibility.
Okay, interesting.
I think that they're only going to keep 1 fullback that's actually active because Harrison got hurt too. So there's no one that's really going to take that spot. They don't often use the fullback, but I think Beck allows them to keep a fullback and then 3 tight ends if they want. And I think right now, if I had to say who those tight ends would be, I would say it would be Schultz, Quitoriano, and Shrek. Brevin Jordan's gotten hurt. Like Brevin Jordan and Kirksey, the thing about those guys is they're in tough spots because the linebackers look way more athletic without Kirksey out there. He didn't look good last year. I'm a believer that if your front office is worth a damn, you can find a player of the caliber of Christian Kirksey. I mean, no disrespect, but I just feel like if you have a good front office and you have a good general manager, you can find someone that can do better. And Cashman's just way more athletic, and the linebackers just look a lot more athletic out there without Kirksey. God bless him. Seems like they like him. You save $4 million cutting him. And quite frankly, some of those second string linebackers have looked pretty good. Hansen, look out for Hansen on Thursday, number 35.
You like him.
White dude. He does his thing. I mean, these backup linebackers, they look pretty good. Hansen,
if the Texans, if they're in a little bit, if they're in a position to where they're releasing Christian Kirksey because he's just not good enough and the money doesn't make sense, it shows that things are progressing as far as the rebuild is going, because it's not a position that they would have been in a year ago, certainly 2 years ago. If they're now in a position where they're like, okay, you know what? We've just got better players. Some of our backups look pretty good. We're going to release him and save some money, $4 or $5 million. That's a good place to be as a football team. Even if it's heartless or whatever, or cold and calculated, that's where this roster needs to be moving forward.
Well, here's the thing. Like, Christian Kirksey benefited from this being a dog-butted organization the last couple of years because there's not too many good football teams that are going to have Christian Kirksey on the field as much as the Texans did and give 100%. Him as much of an opportunity. So I think he's been a good leader of this squad through the mud. But, at this point, it's tangible culture, guys, is one of the themes of improving. It's tangible versatility and it's tangible culture, guys. And when you have D'Amico saying good things about To'o, he's saying good things about Will Anderson, he's saying good things about Jalen Petrie, like Jimmy Ward. Those are guys that still have really good ball in front of them, and those are tangible culture guys. That's not Nick Martin getting talked about because he had, a garage
because he stole weight room equipment during COVID.
Dude, I actually have Bill O'Brien. For some reason, I have it on here. You want to hear Bill O'Brien talk about Nick Martin?
Yes, I'm always here for that.
Nick works really hard. He's got really good leadership ability. He's very smart. He comes from a football family. It's just really important to him. I mean, even during the off season, he was home. He went back to Indianapolis for a while and worked out with his brother. And, came back in really good shape and just loves. He just every day. It's great to see Nick. Nick has a great attitude every day. Works hard. Takes his reps. He's got a very workman-like attitude, and he's got really good leadership qualities. Great guy to have on the team.
He looked good. I mean, he's fresh, right? He's doing good. It's good to have him out there. He's a leader. He communicates well. It's really important for us to have him out there. He's an important part of what we do offensively. So it's good to have him back.
Dude,
this is how lame I am. If one day, Landry, you and I are lucky enough to just sit down, have some beers with Bill O'Brien, which I could see happening in some city. I just don't know where the circumstances. One of the things I would ask him about is this. I'd be like, "What the hell were you doing with Nick Martin? What the? Tell me about that
family. Who cares?"
Yes, he's about football family.
Well, it goes like in. I'm actually going to put a video out of this too. I actually have Caserio on Amendola when he retired too. If you're talking about like over romanticized culture, guys, this is just an example of where we were. This is to laugh at where we are, where now you're getting Will Anderson, Jalen Petrie romanticized.
Yeah.
Listen to Nick Caserio after Danny Amendola retired after his 8 games with the Texans.
Just a quick note to Danny Amendola, just on his retirement. Had an immense effect on our program last year, even though he's only here 1 year. You can't say enough good things about him. I mean, what he's done, his toughness. I mean, there's 1,000 examples of that I had the good fortune of firsthand to see. But great career, great person, will always be a Houston Texan.
that last I can understand like some of it because I'm sure
he will always be a Houston Texan.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Even Danny Amendola, if he heard that, is looking around like, really? Huh? Even Danny Amendola is like, what? Really?
Now you're like, it's like you're getting like Juice Scruggs is getting hyped up. Cool. Will Anderson, Jalen Petrie, all this type of stuff. Like Danny Amendola will always be a Houston Texan. Rex Burkhead, you just can't talk about what Rex Burkhead did.
I'm telling you, I'm never gonna forget the last 2 years until I die, especially 2021. I don't know how we all collectively survived that.
The Culley era?
Yes.
I don't know. The Lovey era got worse than the Culley era for me.
Well, last year got pretty weird too, but at least you had some like younger
hard jerk.
Yeah. What is Lovey doing right now?
Probably chilling, man. Does he still want to go? Well, nobody was going to coach him in the NFL.
Yeah. God. What is Lovey? Do you think any of those people who killed the Texans 7 months ago, can someone just throw up a Chiron? Just ask any of those guys, any of them. What is Lovey Smith doing right now?
I mean, it's so different now. Like, there's so much like, even like the tangible, like coaching type of thing. It's just so, we made it though. We made it.
Yeah. I mean, now it's about winning games and getting good and all that, but at least you have viable reasons to hope for a number of different reasons.
What do you make of Anthony Richardson being 255?
He seems like the kind of guy who, like, you look at him and you look at the way he runs and how athletic he is, and it's like his weight belies whatever he looks like. It's like, it's like a Giannis or LeBron or somebody. You could tell me those guys weigh anything, and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Because it's like the build, the muscle, the athleticism. It's just one of those like freaky things.
It's his whole thing's wearing me out.
But, well, you were the guy who said you would drive him to the team facility if they picked him. Yeah, you still feel that way?
Yeah, he sucks. I don't think he's good. I think Jim Irsay also ruined his biggest asset.
Yeah, that's a weird situation.
Yeah. You think? Pissing off Jonathan Taylor?
I always find it weird, like, maybe I'm not confrontational enough, but it's weird to me that when you have a sit down with somebody and then you come out angrier afterwards, like usually if you have some kind of, negotiation or argument or whatever, but you actually sit down with the person, usually you can come out, feeling a little better about things.
Well,
and in that case,
before they sat down, and then when they sat down, he happened to do it like right when practice started at a bus, like right by the facility.
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
Are you scared? Are you scared of Shane Steichen?
No, I respect Shane Steichen. I'm disgusted by the comparison. Like, he did this with Jalen Hurts, so I think it's a much tougher task. But look, man, like training camp and combines and heights and weights and slinging it against moderate defenses. That's what's made for. That's made for Anthony Richardson. Like that situation is laid out perfectly for him.
I've never seen a player like him. Prospect.
That's the other. I think that's what kind of like annoys me because you know how sometimes, and I think you can relate this more than you probably be willing to admit. But like, you know how sometimes you get annoyed by something and you're like, on the surface, it doesn't really annoy me, but the dialogue around that topic is what really is bothering me. And because of the way that people talk about it, now all of a sudden I have a distaste for something that I shouldn't have a distaste for.
Yep.
Like it's okay to say that Anthony Richardson, if it works in Indianapolis, would be like nothing we've ever seen before. It's not like Josh Allen. It's not like Jalen Hurts. It's not like anything we've seen before. It's freakish athleticism, an unbelievable lack of actual on-field accomplishments in college that ends up being great. If that happens, okay, but we don't have to compare it to something because it's like nothing that we've seen before. And I don't know why it's so hard for people to say that. I don't know why we're trying to like compare him to Josh Allen, compare him to Jalen Hurts. I just don't understand the comparisons. And I think that has led to me just getting kind of annoyed by the whole thing.
Yeah, the Allen stuff doesn't bother me as much because you know that was going to happen. I look at it like I remember Richardson came out. He was pretty hyped 2 years ago, like as a recruit, and he sat behind Emory Jones for a while. But it became obvious that like, yeah, he was hurt. But then like when he was hurt a lot. Yes, but then like when he actually did come in and like run around and do things, it just became obvious that like Dan Mullen was playing the wrong guy.
But the other thing, but don't you think Dan Mullen deserves like some sort of benefit of the doubt? Because I know he's an easy target. I think the 2020 season broke him, but it's not like he hasn't had quarterbacks succeed for him in college.
Yeah, Trask, Dak. Yeah, he's had a lot of success. It was kind of a weird one. I know the injury is a big factor, but you look at last year and like I can't remember a prospect like Richardson who has such elite traits, such phenomenal, size, speed, athleticism, arm, all of it. And it was just so wildly up and down every single week, like completion percentage, yards passing, interceptions, touchdown passing, passes, rushing yards, just like vacillating, like up here, down here. It was like, I just haven't seen anything like it in my life.
We'll see how it goes. A lot of people seem to like him. I think these people probably play Madden franchise a little bit.
It's not surprising that this would happen. That a prospect like this in training camp is going to look pretty good, look more advanced with that kind of coaching.
The accuracy to jump up that much. I know people compare Josh Allen. Josh Allen was playing in Wyoming. He lost all of his receivers. He didn't have a very good squad around him. I know people try to act like Florida receivers are just the worst thing all of a sudden, but that level of accuracy is that's uncanny low for the NFL. And the other thing is he really that good of a runner? Like I know you can go pull some highlights and stuff, but what was he like seventh? He was barely top 10, I think, with rushing yards for a quarterback. Like you can tuck it and run every once in a while, and that's where you start like questioning instincts and stuff, and then the durability concerns. I think that's being kind of minimized.
Well, you've been big on the durability.
Yeah,
it's a lot of body big on that.
It's a lot of body to hit.
True.
He missed more games than anyone, like any of the other prospects. He played the least amount of games and he missed the most. So
he is very young. Comes in at 21. Very young.
And he seems like a great young man. It's just it's okay to say like it would be like nothing we've ever seen. So yeah.
That's fair.
We will see. Melty, appreciate you for coming through.
Always a pleasure.
I will holler at you a little later. I'll answer these questions, but I'll let you go. I know you got some cases to get to.
Have a good night.
All right, Mike Meltzer, the legend, here in the locker room. Be sure to subscribe and like. I'm going to go through a few of the comments. A lot of Anthony Richardson talk. He's not Vince Young had 2 productive years in college, and really Vince's sophomore year, there was some struggles, and then he kind of found himself at the end and in stretches at the Rose Bowl. But Vince Young was a proven winner. Anthony Richardson, I know they have like the same level of like similar skills, but I think Vince is kind of I don't think Vince has the arm power that Anthony Richardson has, but I don't think those guys are very alike. In the NFL, he's saying in the NFL, well, I mean, what do you want me to judge? Like that's all I have to judge him on is them it's college. We'll see what happens. Larry says that's tough on Howard. Who's projected to replace him if he can't go week 1 or 2? It's going to be Fant, George Fant at the moment. Charlie Heck hasn't even stepped on the field yet. Little left practice earlier in camp. Forever Royal says Steven Nelson interview was better than expected. He's bought in. He's doing his thing. Mark P. Give Mills a chance with another team with good play calling to take advantage of his strengths. I would like for him to be the backup here for 2 years at least before that. Good backups are valuable. It's like car insurance. You don't think you need it till you actually need it. Ask the Tennessee Titans last year. Primetime says, what do you think about Cashman starting over Kirksey? I think it looks nice. At least what we've seen. Do me a favor, go back when you leave here, like the video. It helps me out. Appreciate everyone for coming through. This has been a very fun camp. Tomorrow, we'll get our final look before game week. Probably going to be a little bit of a walkthrough. I'll let you know what happens on that. It'll be interesting to see if the local media is in their feels about the D'Amico Ryan situation. You know, I damn sure got my popcorn ready. No matter what happens, though, when it comes to this Texans stuff, whether you're a Texans fan or you're just someone trying to get a pulse of what's going on, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we are all in this together. Appreciate everyone for coming through.
Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.